What is going on there, Reject Nation? We are going to watch today from our friend Paul over at Heavy Spoilers, Stranger Things Season 4 ending theories, the hidden twists explained in Season 5, predictions. Talked extensively with Paul about this show, so I'm excited to see what his video entails. Proud of the man. He's been killing it lately. If you guys can leave a like, that'd be very much appreciated. If you have not seen our Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2 reactions, you can go check them out. They're here on the channel right now. Let's get into action.
So Stranger Things 4 Volume 2 takes things to the max with a big ending that sees several characters dying.
To the max.
This includes Dr. Brenner, Eddie, and Max, who dies during the battle with Vecna.
Max to
Although
the
she's
max.
brought back, Max is left a little worse for wear and come the conclusion she's in a non-responsive coma. It's a big ending, and the finale sees Max using herself as bait in order to draw Vecna out so that Steve, Nancy, and Robin can go to his body and burn him whilst he's distracted. This works really well with them getting the drop on him whilst he's fighting Eleven and Max.
Is Henry like impervious to fire? It wasn't exactly like a burning when Eleven sent him into the Upside Down, but it was like a burning. I mean, look at him, and now he's just still roaming.
No, yeah, he's just so much scar tissue now that in order to actually burn him alive, you have to throw him in like a real volcano or something.
Ooh, Mustafar.
Unfortunately though, he gets most of the way through his ritualistic murder, and he not only blinds Max, but he also breaks several of her bones, killing her in the process. Eleven reaches out to her mind and she manages to revive her, but it is possible that she should have let her Sadie sink into the void. Using their good memories, she pulls her back from the brink, but she may be harboring something much worse in Vecna. Now throughout this video, we're going to be going through our theories on what's going on with her, how Vecna may be alive, and who his next victim is. Theory time.
Gotta get a theory time shirt.
Now the final 50 minutes of Volume 2 has Eleven not only visiting Max in hospital, but she also attempts to reach out to her through the void. We find Max in a non-responsive coma, and thus Elle tries to get through to her on the psychic plane to see if she can pull her back that way. However, her mind is completely devoid of any life or signs that Max is there, and this could be because she's technically brain dead. This is also reflected in what Lucas says too.
Do they know when she'll wake?
No. They say she might not. Her heart stopped for over a minute. She died. I mean, clinically. Then she came back. Doctors don't know how. They say it's a miracle.
Now clinically she died and came back, but her consciousness didn't. Because of this, she's now an empty vessel, and it is possible that Vecna also now exists in her mind, using her as a way to continue living. In the season finale, he ended up falling out of the Creel house on fire, but when Steve and the gang went to check to see if his body was there, he'd got out of it like Nancy did her relationship when sexy Steve smiled at her. God damn. Although he was destroyed in this physical sense, Will confirms that he's still out there, and we see this reflected in the environment. Not only is the doorway to hell starting to bleed the Upside Down into Hawkins, but there also exists a black cloud off in the distance that slightly resembles the Mind Flayer.
Okay, so wait a minute. So this theory that Paul is presenting right here is that Vecna lives within Max's mind now somehow?
Or at the very least, this could open a portal for him to do as such, yeah.
I've heard another theory going around. I think someone commented on Arch. I'm sure there's a comment about it reflecting on Paul's channel too. Vecna says he absorbs people, that he may have absorbed Max. Max's consciousness was absorbed by Vecna, so it actually resides with Vecna now versus the opposite. Like it's kind of an inverse of what I think Paul's actually suggesting.
I feel like that would be more likely. Given everything that happened, it would make more sense that he would absorb her essence or her spirit somehow.
Yeah, that is like, yeah, her body is definitely brain dead. However, her consciousness is actually still with Vecna. Maybe somehow in season 5, you know, like when encountering Vecna through mind shit, and somehow Max will come in and help save the day. Maybe not actually come back to her body and get to live, but still get to be a hero in her own right.
Maybe it will be like a Freddy Krueger thing where it's like spirits trapped within then rebel or something like that.
As a child, young Creel used to be fascinated with spiders, and he drew the shape that would go on to terrorize Hawkins. This was clearly how he viewed himself as being, and upon going to the Upside Down, he said the following.
I saw a means to realize my potential, to transcend my human form, to become the predator I was always born to be.
So it makes sense that if his physical body was to be destroyed, that he'd then take on something that looked more like the Mind Flayer for his final form. However, I don't think that he's this cloud per se, it's more there just as a warning of what's to come. Now I believe that Vecna is licking his wounds and he's hiding out in Max, recovering along with her. The series
That would be
has
so
also
creepy.
hinted at how this is possible at several points. Now, firstly, there is of course Will, who in season 2 was infected with shadow particles, and this created a symbiosis between him and Vecna that he still feels to this day. He didn't fully take over the character, but he was very much a parasite within him, similar to what I believe he's doing with Max. There's also the fact that Max's mind was used as a battleground between him and 11. It's a bit confusing as to how it all plays out, but basically Max goes to the Creel house, and then she draws out Vecna, who from his hiding place then psychically enters her mind. Using a little Nina and the boys, 11 is then able to project herself out there so that the pair can battle it out in Max's brain.
What I'm really hoping for, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are hoping for too, that somehow with the fact that Will has maintained being connected to the Upside Down or Vecna perhaps, in the season 5 finale, somehow Will is able to use this torture, this trauma that he has just been living with morning, noon, and night, and be able to become a hero in some way. You know, I saw this like interesting TikTok going around that was showing that how Vecna might actually might have really truly been planted since season 1. The first time Will was taken, the first time Will was taken, the bell chime did go off that resembles Vecna. Now that could have been the Duffer Brothers just being like, hey, this bell chime, let's kind of use it to our advantage, or it could have been intentional since the very first season.
Hey, maybe by season 5, Will have awakened, extra kinetic powers or something like that. Maybe all this exposure to the Upside Down will somehow bring him closer to 11 in ability.
That would be amazing.
Now, having access to this due to being one of his victims means that Vecna can technically come and go as he pleases. Throughout the first volume, we watched as those he stalked ended up seeing vivid visions of him before he eventually launched his final attack. During the time between this, he'd retreat back to his body, but if he no longer had this to go back to, he'd likely have to hide out in Max. I believe that he's actually somewhat feeding off 11, though she might be completely unaware of it. In the final few scenes, we see 11 spinning a Coca-Cola bottle, and in between it, we get flashes of her time at Max's bedside when she reached into her mind. Coca-Cola has been something that's popped up throughout the series, and at several points, this infamous drink has been used to show 11's abilities. I think the way that this edit is carried out and the order of the scenes could hint towards what's going on and why Vecna is using her. For example, we get the Coca-Cola scene, a quick cut to 11 reaching out to Max, Hopper's return, and then the dark cloud coming in. The way the sequence is set up makes it seem like it's all connected, and how Vecna may end up using 11 as a way to power himself up due to their ties. For example, love is something that definitely empowers 11, and having Hopper and Joyce's return could have added the slight boost that Vecna needed to then push the Upside Down out. The chill that Will gets on the back of his neck comes immediately after this, and though I might be reaching, it does seem like these moments are played out like this for a specific reason.
I mean, all of it's very specific, as we've come to learn. I do love the idea that, because this whole thing with Vecna becoming more powerful as this absorption machine, I do believe that in some way he does need 11 to be at like maximum power, so that way he can use her abilities. Like, he might not be strong enough individually, but if he can take the powers of 11, then he'd be unstoppable. And that'd be kind of like a crazier, like, reveal upon reveal. This whole time, that's why he's never just gone out and just killed 11 directly, but has been trying to take her.
Oh, so he can like complete himself and like ascend to some kind of other world. It would be like Superman and Lois.
Yes,
be good.
yeah.
Just merge with your bizarro self, 11, in the upside down world.
Now, Max being lost in the void could also come back around, and potentially she may be the key to stopping Vecna as well. Bringing her back from the brink and having the pair fight it out in her mind for who gets control over her body would be a big battle, and something that could end up being the way that the series progresses. I can actually see 11 possibly venturing back into Max's mind, and she'll start to explore the darkness within it until she comes across Vecna, who will have Max as his hostage.
But it's my mind, not his, right? So I should be able to control where I am. I just need to push him away.
The pair might potentially fight it out there, and 11 could end up winning, which would free Max and allow her to come back. This might then lead Vecna into going off into another one of his potential puppets, aka Will. Will early on was introduced as a character who had massive ties to the Upside Down, and though Max took a lot of focus in the 4th season, when we're talking human characters that Vecna has his sights on, he'd definitely be higher up than her. Because he can still feel Vecna, I think that he'd be another possible vessel that he could end up fleeing into. This is also hinted at if we look at the origins of the name Vecna, which we of course know comes from Dungeons and Dragons. This powerful wizard has several abilities that also include possession, explaining how he could potentially take over the future characters.
I don't know. There's something about me that morbidly likes the idea of Will suffering more and just bringing it back to him just under this control. I don't know why. It just sounds amusing to me. After all this time, it's just like, God damn, this show just loves to beat this kid up so much.
I think it would make it feel like there is a design to Will's overall suffering, because after a while it does start to feel like, what do we do with Will? I don't know. Let's just make him suffer in silence. So like to have him then be imbued with Vecna and have to go up against 11 would be heart crunching.
Yeah.
That'd be the worst.
Now there's also the fact that we know shadow particles exist out in Russia, and he may end up attempting to get access to them. Though Murray busts out the flamethrower to take out some Demogorgon gas, I don't believe that the shadow particles themselves were destroyed, and we lingered on them long enough for me to believe that they'll be brought back in some form or another. Now, it's a long trip for them to fly to Hawkins, so this might have just been used as a way to explain the shadow particles before we learned that Vecna manipulated them in order to attack Hawkins. So this could have just been a way to hint at the final reveal before we got it, but let me know below exactly what you think. Now, I think that the other members of the group could end up becoming Vecna's victims, and that once he's back to full power, he'll find a way to hunt the heroes of Hawkins once more. Who he's after is anyone's guess, but Dustin does fit the profile of one of the people he'd target. Through Max, we discover that those he goes after tend to have faced some form of trauma, and they harbour feelings of guilt that make them easy to manipulate. This could be seen in Dustin, who could end up feeling guilty over the fact that Eddie died to save him. This was of course also mirrored in Max, who felt like she was personally responsible for Billy's passing. Dustin could share this too, as Eddie was getting away, but he turned around to face the bats out of hell, which left him gone when the morning come.
You know what I honestly would prefer if he's going to choose a victim? I prefer it to be Joyce. I think Joyce is the one who's had so much guilt to deal with, and her character has not been feeling like the most essential. I don't want to say she's non-essential. It's just, you know, she was like the star of the first season, and now she's just kind of like this amusing supporting character who's just kind of funny once in a while, but really is not given that much weight anymore. And I think to do from your season 1 to season 5 to really bring it full circle, imagine her dealing with the amount of guilt and loss that she's had to deal with over the course of these last 4 seasons, and how much that weight would take a toll on her, especially now that she's back in Hawkins herself.
Well, now we get a nice sort of change up in just the motifs too, because I feel like so much of the kid stuff is sort of kept with the kids and isolated. So then to have that boundary crossed of like, oh crap, we're facing, you know, in this perverse form, one of our most beloved and close familial characters, I think would be a nice twist on things.
And it would actually give Hopper an opportunity. It would make that season 5 personal for Hopper now too, especially if it's Joyce's life that's the one being endangered or threatened by Vecna.
A opportunity.
It really makes me wonder if they'll actually kill some of the core cast members next season, as currently seems like they're playing it slightly safe when it comes to those they murder. Sure, Eddie was a big death, but he and Jason feel like they were created just for this season so that they could be killed off. Now that Brenner is dead, I also hope that Dr. Owens comes back as well to somewhat mentor 11 and take her to the next level, the 12.
Boo! You suck!
Now he's also a character that we don't really know what happened to, and it's unlikely that the military will still trust him. He did, however, plead with the army to bring Ellen alive, and perhaps after seeing the chopper downed, they'll realise that trying to assassinate her isn't the best way to go about it. Not really connected to the original theory on this video, but I thought I'd just throw it in there so you get a bit of extra bang for your buck on the video. And you bloody did, didn't you?
Yep.
I'm too bloody good to you. But what I'd love to hear are your thoughts on what's going on.
I do think that if the 11 died some type of ultimate sacrifice, it would also bring it full circle. I remember the Duffer Brothers saying that they did originally intend to kill off 11, but, you know, she's too much of a commodity.
The executive producers came in and said, hey, hold on a second. This is way too popular of a character.
Yeah, she's great. But I think, especially if you're going to put a final stamp, like we are declaring this is the final season for sure, I think killing off 11 would be heartbreaking and devastating, but it kind of seems like it's destined for that path too.
Could be very, very meaningful.
I know there's probably a lot of different ways that the series could go, so make sure you comment below and let me know for this one big theory time.
All right, well, thanks for that video, Paul. That was really well done. Just certainly sparked the mind. Now we just got to wait like 4 more years for season 5 to come out, and then we're going to be rock and rolling from here on out. But guys, what do you think about these? What are your craziest theories for Stranger Things 5 or the ending of Stranger Things 4? Leave them down below. You can subscribe to the Heavy Spoilers channel. Please do so. Help get this guy to 1 million. He deserves it. Also, subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell. Last but not least, let's do a... Brian Perry got a message from you saying that you were pledged for this tier for May and June and that you didn't get a shout out. I'm sorry about that. I mean, we have like a list here of everyone that's pledged. Patreon automatically does it. If your name wasn't there, I blame John, plain and simple.
It's my fault.
I think John should have been able to properly determine this and gone through every single one of our patrons individually to make sure you specifically, Brian, did not get dicked over in the end. But you got dicked over by us. I'm so sorry, Brian Perry. I got to say, though, as someone who didn't actually get the shout out, that you actually still stuck around with us, regardless of you not getting the tier that was supposed to be properly delivered to you. Not too many people do that. Usually, you know, you get some type of, I want a refund, I'm mad at you for not doing this, give me my money back. But you didn't do that. Instead, you stayed pledged. Now, we need more people like Brian Perry here who go, I paid for something, I didn't get it, but I'm still going to keep paying for it. I'm not one of those people. How many Patreon pages I've complained to? Oh my God, I lost count. Brian, you're one of the good ones out there. You got a heart of gold where money's not everything, and yet you still stayed pledged.
You're a patient cat, Brian.
It's a lot of character. You were the first person we were shouting out in the month of July. Love you, Brian. Thank you for being you. I better not see a Patreon refund request coming in now.